Okay, so top of page 63, the misappropriation of power. Right? This is top of page 63. The misappropriation of power is the belief, the ideology, that the good is the only proper manifestation of power, which is what I just said, right? This will to good denies, refutes any manifestation of power that results in harm. All such manifestations of power are labeled as evil. The idea is, as we approach power, a discourse on power, you really have two ways of discussing this. You have the will to good or the will to power itself. Right? This is a true mutual exclusion. You can either, to the path of power, take a will to power, the road, or you can take the will to good. If you take the will to good approach, what you'll end up finding out is that as you will to good, will to power, if you take the will to good approach, you're going to end up recognizing that your journey ends in an antithetical relationship, in an ideologically reinforced antithetical relationship. Good absolute as distinct from evil absolute. I can't think of any clearer way to make this, right? I mean, if you just read the text, it's not necessarily apparent. I'm going to give you a couple of implications of this, however, right? So the idea is, if the individual moral agent recognizes that they're on a pathway to power, there are two ways in which, there are two paths that you can take, and they are mutually exclusive. Either you're going to take this path, or you're going to take this path, but there isn't an opportunity to do both, right? This will to good is going to culminate, it ends, it manifests in its greatest instantiation, its greatest form, a recognition that there is the belief that there is all good, pure, if you will, goodness, and pure evil, right? Wholly evil with no good, wholly good with no evil, right? And what we need to do is we need to, at this point, embrace the good and then fight the ultimate battle against evil. Again, in my eschatology series, which I'll be doing in the next couple of days, I'm going to talk about that. Obviously, this is the Battle of Armageddon, right? The battle, the end of all battles. And of course, as any good sort of plot would have it, the last battle is the biggest battle. It's the battle where everybody basically dies, except for a very small percentage of people, right? So the ultimate realization for an individual devotee on the path to the will to good is a recognition of manifest pure goodness, manifest pure evil, and I have to embrace, shield myself, if you will, with manifest goodness in order to fight the final battle against the real bad guy, right? The Antichrist, Satan, what have you, you know, whatever the manifestation of that final bad guy is. If you take a will to power, and you'll see why this is completely different, right? It's a recognition that we're talking about one and the same, right? That good and evil are two sides to the same coin. You can't cut off half of a coin. You can infinitesimally, conceptually speaking, find a midpoint between point A and C, right? You can always make it even smaller. You can't cut it. There's always going to be two sides to this. One, the unity. This is Parmenidean, and I'm going to get too deep, but the unity is itself identified by the duality of oppositions, and oppositions in scare quotes. It's not an opposite in any sense. It's just a different manifestation of the same thing, right? It is heads or tails. It is good or bad. You can't get rid of tails, because if you get rid of tails, by definition, you can't have heads. What's on the other side? It's tails, right? What we recognize as a will to power is that the act culminates, the act that puts me on this path towards power culminates for me, and it has, conceptually, definitely has, for better or worse. I mean, there are sort of cognitive difficulties in recognizing if you really truly get it, because then you recognize that really the only thing that really exists in this world that is of any importance with respect to conduct is the law. Because without the law, people would probably do the most egregious offenses in the world, right? So I don't believe in those, and I'm a little off topic here, but I don't believe in those criminologists and those criminology theories that say that the death penalty is not a deterrence to the population. I don't believe that, right? I don't believe that just incarceration itself or capital punishment as manifest isn't a deterrence. I don't believe that. Of course it's not a deterrence for everybody, but to say it's not a deterrence is a joke. If there's no penalty at all, and you could kill someone in broad daylight, at whim, you're in a car, someone cuts you off, they shoot you the bird, they piss you off, you're completely infuriated, and you know you could reach in your glove box, pull out a gun, walk up to the person, shoot him in the face, and nothing would happen at all. The only thing that might happen is, oh, my conscience, I feel bad that, but no, there would be no legal repercussions for that act. Can you imagine the world that we would live in? Can you imagine the world that we would live in? Right? Once you get to that recognition, it's a recognition that I am capable of doing that. I am absolutely capable of being that guy. I can be the bad guy. I can be the bad guy. Law is in place to keep me from being the bad guy because I don't need morality to do that for me. I don't need morality to tell me how I ought to live. I put my faith, quote unquote, in the law such that the law is capable of setting the parameters for my conduct. Now, with respect to the law doesn't throw you in jail for adultery, right? So if I'm not breaking the law insofar as I'm committing adultery, then hey, why am I going to let a moral system tell me that I ought not to do that? The law says I can, I'm going to do it. The law says, let's say in California, and I don't really know the law, but let's say in California the law says that I can smoke marijuana if I have back pains, right? I'm not going to smoke marijuana? No, I absolutely will. Right? If the law says that I'm totally within my right to go to a convenience store and buy condoms and have protected sex with my wife, you think because the church says that I'm not allowed to do that, because I don't want to, be a breeder and just have my house overfilled with, baby after baby after baby after baby after baby, because the religious tradition says that that's how I should conduct myself. And I recognize that my wife has her own independence and her own body, and she doesn't want to be a breeder professionally, that I'm not going to practice safe sex with my wife because it violates some moral conception. I don't care about that. I'm not telling you, I'm not disrespecting people's beliefs. I'm saying, assuming this position. Why? Because I recognize that it is all relative. It is all relative. Right? For the moral agent choosing a will to power, we recognize the potential primordial nature that we all have, right? We'll see where this goes with Nietzsche. He has a name for this. I don't want to give it out yet. But we can embrace that sort of pagan, traditional, sort of ancestral primalism. And it's not in duality to some, civilized, buttoned up, refined. No, it's both. You can be both, right? So for Nietzsche, the end state for those individuals that take the path to power is a recognition that there isn't this sort of ultimate diametric opposition. For the rationalist doesn't want to see, if you really are a rationalist, right? Unless you can make egoistic ways in which you can say that it would be just, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. The rationalist doesn't want to see Armageddon. They don't want to see the final battle. I don't mind having battles. I don't mind there being indefinitely many battles as long as there are human beings. But to have the battle to end all battles, why would I want the battle to end all battles? Because the battle to end all battles, Armageddon, would undermine the identity of myself, if I'm a leader, the general, or my soldiers, right? I can't be a general once the battle to end all battles ends. If I survive that battle to end all battles, I'm no longer a general. Look how much of my identity is tied into that. No, I want perpetual battle.